Dee Ann Warner went missing in April 2021. For years, her disappearance was a source of mystery and heartache for the community she had been a part of her whole life. Dee's last sighting had been at her home, at the farmhouse where she and her family lived and worked. It was there that search efforts focused. Just as authorities began to accept that they may have to pursue justice without all of the answers, they made a shocking discovery. Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case has been years in the making. It's a fascinating one that begins with nothing but suspicion and clever deduction, then builds piece after piece before finally reaching an undeniable conclusion. Let's take a look. The Warner family farm is based in the small community of Tipton in Lenawee County, Michigan. In early 2021, the operation off of Munger Road was a large one. Friends and employees worked roughly 3,000 acres, some land directly owned by the Warner family and some rented. Dale and Dee Ann Warner were not just a farming family. Over the years, they had established multiple companies. The most notable, a successful trucking business, which pulled in millions in revenue each year. The couple had come to enjoy many of the finer things in life, including foreign vacations and high-end vehicles. Dee had even invested in a second home on Sand Lake along with one of her adult sons, which they affectionately called the Lake House or the Cedar Point property. Dale and Dee lived at the Munger farmhouse with their 9-year-old daughter, Angelina, or just Lena for short. They both had adult children from their previous marriages who visited frequently. A few even worked with them on the property. On Sunday, April 25th, 2021, Dee's daughter, Raquel, arrived at the farmhouse to meet her mother for their regular Sunday brunch and shopping date. Except when Raquel arrived, Dee wasn't at home. Calls to her cell phone went straight to voicemail. Text messages went unanswered. That morning, Raquel and her brothers, TJ and Zach, searched the farm for signs of their mother. They contacted her personal assistant, Stephanie, who had not heard from her either. When Dale was contacted, he suggested that Dee was taking some time to herself. The night before, she had a disagreement with two of the truck drivers, one of whom subsequently quit, and the other she had fired. Traditionally, when Dee needed space, she went to the lake house. But Zach had already checked. His mother was not there. Even more concerning was that Dee was rarely separated from her youngest daughter, Lena. The evening before, Dee had made arrangements for Lena to stay with her cousin, and she had not picked her up the next morning. Growing more and more worried, Raquel and brother TJ contacted the police. It was a Lenawee County Sheriff's deputy who arrived at the property to speak with Dale. As far as it could be ascertained at that point, the 53-year-old farmer was the last person to see or speak with Dee.
Are you Dale? Excellent. Alright, so I hear your wife is missing?
Well, I don't know if she's missing or if she just left, so.
Okay.
She had an altercation with one of our employees, and two of them. I came home last night and she was really upset. She was talking a lot of bad things as far as employees. One employee decided to quit.
Dale further explained how he came to discover that many of Dee's personal items were missing. These included her wallet, cell phone, makeup, and what he called her go bag, a pre-packed bag that she kept ready to leave for overnight stays.
Her daughter, Stephanie, called me and said Raquel called her, she can't find her mom. And I said, well, she's at the house, she's in there laying on the couch. Excuse me, so she couldn't find her, and then I called Raquel, and I says, your mom's not there? She was just there, when I was there an hour or two ago. She said, no, she's not here. I says, well, I'll be done spraying here shortly and I'll be back. So about, half an hour, 45 minutes later, I got back here and I went in the house and she was gone. And I walked around in the house, going in the bathroom, well, her hair curler's gone, her hair dryer's gone, her makeup bag's gone, and she has a go bag packed all the time. I mean, this isn't the first time she's left. Usually she takes off and goes to her son's house and stays for a day or so in their bag.
Pentecost.
Yeah, you talk to Zach. Yeah. Usually she gets all pissed off, takes off and goes over there for a day. This time the difference is she ain't answering anymore. Right.
It was unclear how Dee may have left the property. The Cadillac, which she usually drove, was still in the garage. The second vehicle, a Hummer, was parked at the office building, a short distance from the house. In the office, resting on the top of his desk, Dale came across one item that Dee had left behind, her $50,000 wedding ring.
Somewhere.
Okay. Do you know of anybody who?
I don't. They called everybody that, like I said, I figured she was with Zach with her son.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what else to do other than wait a day or so and see what
Sure,
she shows up.
Yeah, I mean, if you
I don't get everybody all fired up. The kids are all fired up and call police. This isn't the first time she's done this, guys.
Right.
But the only thing that's really strange too is this time she put her wedding ring in my desk in the office.
Yeah,
She's never done that before.
yeah, that is odd.
So
Dale told the deputy that he was concerned, but not yet alarmed by Dee's absence. Those who knew the 52-year-old mother and business owner described her as warm-hearted but tempestuous. Dee could be quickly angered and had a tendency to overreact. It may not have been typical for her to disappear, but it was not unheard of for her to seek out attention. What's more, Dale suggested that she was in fact in contact with someone.
Keeps your phone on her hip, or is she pretty
never without it.
never without it?
But I told the other kids she's got a second phone, but she doesn't let anybody know she's got another phone.
Do you have a phone number?
No, it's a secret phone that she doesn't know that I know she has it. But
Why would she have it?
I have no idea. I haven't confronted her about it because I didn't want the confrontation. But I know she has another phone. The way she left, she doesn't want anybody to know where she's at. So I mean,
Yeah.
obviously she knows what she's doing because we can't find her.
Right. No, I get that. Yeah, absolutely get that. All right, I will. I'll clear out here, and if she does show up, please give us a call.
Okay, you got a card?
Yes, I'll give you that.
While her husband speculated that her absence was due to nothing more than another attention-seeking emotional outburst, Dee's children felt differently. Days passed and there was no sign of her whereabouts. Her bank accounts were inactive, her social media silent. Dee's passport was found to be missing along with her driver's license. There was no activity on her missing cell phone. Investigators could find no record of her owning a second one. Dale claimed that up to $100,000 that had been tucked away in one of their family's safes was now missing. However, a large quantity of cash that Dee had kept hidden in the drawer of her desk in the office, which her husband had not been aware of, was still there. Her son, Zach, who worked as the family's bookkeeper, was the only other person who knew she kept it there. With Dale's consent, searches were undertaken at the farm. At the house, investigators saw nothing further to raise red flags, except a single, potentially incriminating observation. Outside a rear door of the farmhouse, which led from the living room, investigators noted large tire tracks. They were a match to the JCB front loader that Dale had been driving around on the morning of Dee's disappearance. It appeared that the JCB had been parked directly in front of the wall of the house, such that the loader sat in front of the living room door, an odd way to park unless one planned to move a heavy object from the house. Indeed, it was odd to park that piece of equipment next to the house at all. This was the area usually reserved for the family vehicles. The Hummer was usually there. Since the home was also a large working farm and the headquarters to a substantial trucking business, there were employees coming and going at all hours. As investigators inquired, they found one employee who was on the property in the early morning hours of April 25th, the day Dee went missing. That witness said they saw the Hummer parked by the living room door, as it always was. They did not go to the house, but noticed, curiously, that the lights were on inside. That was at roughly 3:45 a.m. As teams combed the property, Dale sat down to speak with police once again, at length. He explained that the night before she allegedly left him, Dee had been itching for an argument.
And that's when she says, well, I'm all done. We're fucking selling everything. We're done. And she hung up the phone, and I had no more contact with her the rest of the day. I tried calling her several times, and she wouldn't answer phones. And she went over to her daughter Amber's.
Dale was not the only person to tell police that Dee had been visibly upset that weekend. When her sister-in-law, Amy, arrived at the house to collect Lena on Saturday, she found Dee disheveled, her face red and swollen as though she had been crying. She was planning to have a serious talk with her husband that night, and that was why she wanted her young daughter out of the house. Dale conceded that they did indeed argue that night. In his view, this was why his wife chose to leave.
I was trying not to get to where we're both screaming at each other. There's nothing you can tell when you're screaming at each other. And she was very bad because she was, after hindsight, I look back, I think she was trying to get me mad so she could have a fight so that she could have a reason to leave that night.
Dale recounted again how he discovered the wedding ring on his desk that morning. Then he speculated that Dee had awoken that morning, grabbed her bags and other personal items, driven over to the office in the Hummer, and left her ring. There was a tracker on the vehicle, however, one that had been installed ostensibly to track diagnostics, but that could also be used to trace the vehicle's location on GPS through an app, which was linked to Dale's phone.
I think she was paranoid and thought there was still a tracker in it.
Okay, so you did this one, you did that one.
Yeah, I think she knew that this one could be tracked. She went on this one, then she pulled out, went down there, put the ring in my desk, went back out, and said, oh, fuck, you can probably track this too, because he knows everywhere I go.
So in theory,
I'm talking off the cuff. I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know any of this stuff.
So in theory, she could make.
When Dale found his ring, he was with Zach in the office accessing the farm's security cameras to check for any sign of Dee. These cameras were arranged around the property, mostly to capture employees' movements. The cameras did not show Dee leaving, nor did they show her at the office. They did not show her movements at all, including any vehicle that may have arrived to collect her. The cameras did, however, offer some insight into Dale's movements the day his wife disappeared. Dale was certain that he awoke and left the house for work at around 6 to 6:30 a.m. At that time, Dee was asleep on the couch downstairs where she had been all night. Dale is shown moving liquid fertilizer around 7. He used the JCB front loader to move the fertilizer, taking a couple of trips from one outbuilding to another area. When Dale finished with the loader that morning, he parked it by the house. When he did so, he told detectives that he walked through the living room and saw Dee still fast asleep on the couch. Based on the timestamp of the footage, he was done with the loader just before 7:30 a.m. Then he performed some standard chores around the property, driving around the small orange Kubota. Dale left in the sprayer before 8 a.m. Then he returned and left again in the same piece of machinery at about 8:40. He was spraying a field a short drive away when Raquel arrived at the house to meet her mother. According to his version of events, Dale first became aware that his wife was missing at around 9:30 or even 10, when a call from Stephanie, Dee's assistant, informed him that Dee's children were gathering at the house because no one could reach her. At this stage, there was no concrete evidence linking Dee's disappearance to her husband, but they were working on it. The Lenawee County Sheriff's Office called in the Michigan State Police, who took the lead in the investigation. While Dale maintained that Dee had up and left, her family insisted that there was simply no way that she would choose to do so. The two sides of this blended family, both with long roots in the farming community, had always been at odds with each other. But now that rift had widened into a gulf. Dale took over operation of the businesses. including the profitable trucking company that had been solely in Dee's name. He instructed Zach to stop issuing a paycheck to his mother. In his efforts to move on, Dale was supported by his adult children. In particular, his then 24-year-old son, Jiren, to whom he gave power of attorney and temporary custody of Lena should the need arise. That would be required, of course, should he be arrested for his wife's murder.
Obviously, as time goes on, we are more and more concerned about her safety as obviously Mother's Day passed and she was not around and didn't make contact with anybody.
Well, I think they're lying, 100%. I think that's their only possibility of a narrative that they think they can try to turn the public on, to think that the story of theirs about her vanishing was anywhere even possibly something that logical people could believe.
In October 2021, further extensive searches took place at the Munger farm under the supervision of the MSP and with the assistance of federal agencies, including the FBI. They brought in police dogs and used ground-penetrating radar technology to mark off areas to perform more invasive searches. Areas of the fields were dug up. Teams appeared to concentrate for a time on the land adjacent to the farmhouse plot, but ultimately nothing of value to the investigation was uncovered. The following spring, in March 2022, new search warrants were issued. This time, they came alongside the announcement of an award offered by Dee's brother, Greg Hardy, $50,000 for any information that led to his sister's location. Dale Warner was once again questioned by police. He began by implying that Dee's children were the ones acting suspiciously.
This is weirder than weird to me. Dee's been gone an hour to 2 hours, and the kids are here all in pain, and she's left countless times. This is weird. And then Zach's in the office going through the security cameras, trying to figure out where's Mom's at. He wasn't going through the security cameras, he was deleting shit off the cameras because he picked his mom up and he wanted no trackers. So.
MSP investigators seemed to disregard Dale's speculation against his stepchildren. They believed they had caught him in a lie, a big one. So, once again, they went through his timeline from the morning of April 25th. Dale said that when he parked the JCB front loader at the house around 7:30 a.m., Dee had been inside sleeping. It was clear where the loader had been parked. He was viewed driving up at that time on camera. Witnesses saw it there. Tire tracks had been visible. Dale himself stated that that is where he had placed it. It was also well established that this was the exact location where the Hummer had sat for days until it was moved that morning. During the interview in his kitchen, Dale stated that he believed it was Dee that had driven the Hummer to the office, where she dropped her wedding ring on his desk before leaving. But if Dee was the one who moved the Hummer, how could she have been on the couch, still sleeping, when he parked in its vacated space? If the Hummer had been moved at that time, which it had, Dee must have already left, or not been the person who drove it to the office.
And what did you see in the house when you could run back in there?
Didn't see anything in the house. He was still sleeping.
Okay, she's still asleep. And at this point, this seems like a silly question. Was anyone else on the property or in the house?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And she's still got about 6:30.
That was my next question. How long had it been? Okay.
So that morning, maybe close 6:37. I mean.
Okay. Get that.
Yeah.
And where was the JCB parked?
JCB's inside the barn here.
Okay. And you said you pulled up to the house. Can you show me?
We pulled out here, pulled around this way, pulled up over here. Want to grab what I need in the house, come back out, went back on through, and out here, pick stuff out of the barn, moved over here.
Okay. Do you mind having some notes on here with you? Is that okay?
Yes, I will.
Dale was presented with an aerial image of the property. He placed an X on the spot where he pulled in the loader, then went inside and claimed to have seen Dee still fast asleep. The cameras had also revealed that the Hummer was moved from the spot by an unnecessarily longer route around the house than the more direct one between the house and the office. They revealed this by not capturing the Hummer move at all. Whoever drove it had avoided the cameras entirely. It was not only Dale's movements that betrayed him. Investigators had also analyzed his phone and vehicle data. They knew that Dale had attempted to access the camera system through an app on his phone that morning before 9 a.m. and before receiving the call from Stephanie that Dee was missing.
I never accessed them in the office. I didn't have the code to get into it.
Yeah, when you did access the cameras, what were you looking for? I know it's a silly question, but
I was looking to see, what was going on that morning or where everything moved. And I didn't look at anything other than when Zach was there because they had me locked out. I couldn't get into it.
okay. Well, there's absolutely no doubt you accessed the cameras that morning. I'm just asking you what you were looking for. It's a silly. We're trying to read the sheriff's department, so we just need you to explain everything, as silly as it sounds,
I mean, they were looking to see what cars went by that would pick you up.
Okay, and that's what you did when you accessed them?
I didn't access them. Zach already had them on the screen.
Dale, we promised to be honest with each other.
I did look.
Just listen, there's absolutely no doubt you accessed the cameras. If you were just looking for your wife, then just say you're just looking for your wife.
I was looking for my wife, but I didn't access the security cameras that morning.
You have access to them on your phone, correct?
Yes, if it'll work, and it would not work.
Okay, so when you tried to access the cameras, what were you doing?
I was looking to see who was in the office, if Dee was on the cameras.
Okay, so you're just looking for Dee, that's all I was trying to get to. Yeah, looking for Dee.
See where she's at, but I already figured she's at Zach's house. But.
Okay, and that's specifically from your phone, that's what you're attempting to do, right?
Right.
Okay, and is that...
Investigators also found that Dale had accessed the doors to the Cadillac, the vehicle Dee always drove, 8 minutes after he parked the loader and left the house.
Stephanie called you to ask where Dee was.
I was thinking it was around 9 o'clock or 9:30.
Okay, and until that point, as far as you knew, she was at home, right? Okay.
So I think I texted her, telling her about spraying so that she knew where I was at.
Okay, but until then, things are normal, you don't know any different, right? Essentially, okay. So yeah, why did you access the Cadillac that morning? What did you want the Cadillac for in the garage?
Access the Cadillac for... I don't remember anything in the Cadillac that morning.
You accessed the Cadillac. You have any idea why you would have done that?
No. I didn't get in the Cadillac that morning. What would I get in it for?
I'm not saying you drove it. I'm just saying you accessed it for some reason. You don't recall why.
I don't access it, mean I got in it, you mean? I look at it on my app on my phone.
I'm not certain what you did physically with the vehicle, but you had access to the car.
No, because I probably looked on my phone to see where it was at.
Okay.
That would be accessing it.
Okay. I'm not familiar with what you can do with that.
So I'm sorry, I sit down and start looking at my phone that tells me where it's at.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Tell us about that. I'm not familiar with that.
Just be honest, you got the OnStar app on your phone, you can start your car, you can lock it, and do it with your phone.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you would have accessed that app and it tells you where the car is, and that's why you would have done it to see where she was.
Yeah, see if the car's almost full, she's gonna be home.
Okay. And what about when you tried to locate her iPhone? For what purpose was that?
Let's see where she's at.
Same thing.
I think everybody was trying to find her iPhone.
Okay. Okay. And it had been described to us that when things weren't comfortable with you, she didn't like you knowing where she was. Did she know you had access to those things at the time?
Dale may not have recalled if or why he had accessed Dee's car that morning, but the implication drawn by investigators was clear. Dee was known to always keep her purse with her keys, wallet, ID, and other personal items on the passenger side of the Cadillac. Many of the items that were now missing. And it was not her phone that unlocked the car that morning. By the autumn of 2023, the Michigan State Police believed that Dee Warner was deceased, but they had made no arrests.
Would it help to have answers?
Absolutely.
Even if they're bad?
Even if they're bad. At this point, we've gone a year not knowing. Not knowing is so much worse than knowing.
Do you think there's any chance she's still alive?
No. I don't.
It will be hard, but she's still with me, so I'll be okay.
The family petitioned to have Dee declared officially dead, though that process would take some time. If successful, this declaration would allow them to take back control of Dee's estate and file a wrongful death suit against Dale Warner. Before this could take place, however, Dale started selling off assets. A private investigator, Billy Little, hired by the family, began to uncover a paper trail of fraudulent behavior undertaken by Dale in the wake of Dee's disappearance. In the autumn of 2021, Dale applied for a $1.4 million loan through Dee's trucking company. For the application, he required Dee's signature on the loan documents, as well as a copy of her ID. Somehow, her signature was provided on this loan application, along with a photocopy of her driver's license, despite the fact that her wallet, including her ID, was never located. Then, when the last of the loan payments were received to the business in March 2022, Dale lent himself the full amount, converting almost $1 million for his personal use. In September 2023, Dale Warner was found guilty of contempt of court for ignoring a previous ruling freezing Dee's estate.
Judge Sala found Dale Warner in contempt of court, stating he intentionally and deliberately sold his wife's assets after being instructed by the court not to. She marked several examples of Dale's contempt, the most egregious being the selling of Dee's trucking company, which was the most profitable portion of her estate.
Dale was sentenced to 93 days in jail and ordered to pay substantial financial penalties back to Dee's estate. It would take another year before Michigan State Police would issue an arrest warrant for murder. Without ever locating Dee's body, state prosecutors nonetheless believed they had enough to prove Dale Warner's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In response, Dale's lawyers continued to argue that Dee had simply run off to start a new life.
Easy ways to get identification from the internet, from resources overseas. You can get identification. You can even get a different identity. It's possible today, I guess, to even get a new social security number.
The next step to get Dale to trial was proving that there was probable cause for the indictment. In Michigan, this meant holding an extensive hearing in front of a judge. Dale's team argued that there was zero physical evidence that Dale had committed murder. Indeed, because there was no body, there was no physical evidence that Dee was even dead.
There is no body, there are no body parts, there's no decomposition, massive pool of blood. Whether Ms. Warner is dead is something that the government needs to prove, not just submit a death certificate and checkmark that box off.
But the circumstantial case was overwhelming. In addition to what Billy Little had uncovered of Dale's alleged financial motive, there was also an abundance of evidence suggesting a history of abuse in the relationship. Family, friends, and employees of the couple testified that the marriage was toxic. Dale and Dee argued loudly and frequently. Raquel told the court that her mother expressed fear of her husband.
There was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of cussing, slamming things maybe, irritation.
Was your mom happy in the marriage?
No. One of the last things that my mom said to me was, I watch Dateline like every night and he could do something like that to me.
And what did she mean? What did you take that to mean? He could do something like that to me.
Objection, speculation.
If you know.
Make her disappear.
While at the house searching for her mother, Raquel recalled Dale making statements about how Dee had ruined his life.
Something about how my mom has ruined his life. She's always trying to ruin his life. He said everything I've worked for is gone.
Okay. And did you know what that meant at that time?
No.
Sister-in-law Amy, who collected Lena from the house on the last day Dee was seen alive, testified that she planned to ask Dale for a divorce that evening. A few hours later, Amy texted Dee to see how the conversation was going. The text she received back was unusual. It was just a single K. Some of Dee's cell phone data was retrieved despite the missing device. This showed that after sending that message to Amy, the cell phone was powered off and never turned back on. The most likely explanation was that the killer, not Dee, had sent that final message.
She had been crying a lot.
Okay. Was this a usual or unusual appearance from your perspective?
Unusual.
How did she say that she was feeling or doing at that moment in time? Did she tell you how her day was going?
She did on text message.
Oh, okay. What did she tell you?
That she had been hyperventilating and vomiting all day.
Did she tell you why she wanted you to pick Lena up?
She said that her and Dale were going to have a talk.
Did she say what her plan was in regards to this talk with Dale?
She said she wanted to sell the trucking company and be done.
Okay. Be done with what?
The marriage.
Text messages from Dee painted a picture of Dale as a controlling and at times violent husband. In December 2020, Dee wrote about an argument that became a physical altercation in which he turned into the devil. She texted, "I literally thought he could kill me." Her massage therapist testified that she saw bruises on Dee on 2 occasions, one of which was tied to the same incident she texted another friend about. Dee told family that she stayed in the marriage in part because of her daughter. Some speculated that she was reluctant to divorce for a second time. Still, others close to her believed that despite Dee's strong personality, she had fallen victim to the abuse cycle, and she believed at some point it would get better. But by all accounts, in April 2021, Dee was reaching the end of the line. Her messages showed her threatening to leave Dale if he did not cease his controlling behavior. Data from the 2 vehicles that Dee drove, the Cadillac, her primary vehicle, as well as the Hummer, showed the extent to which Dale was keeping tabs on his wife. The in-vehicle tracking on the Cadillac showed that someone else with access requested location data more than 2,000 times over a 16-month period, averaging 4 location checks per day leading up to her disappearance. In addition, Dale had a GPS tracker secretly placed on Dee's secondary vehicle, the Hummer, because he was worried she was having an affair. That data was accessed 176 times before Dee found the device. It turns out Dee was, in fact, having an affair. This development did not come as a shock to family when it was discovered, given that her marriage had been on the rocks for years. The identity of her lover has not been disclosed, and police say that man has an airtight alibi for the time that she went missing. Whether his paranoia was justified, however, was irrelevant to the steps that Dale took to track and control his wife. He allegedly had secret cameras installed inside the house. He attempted to have an employee download all of the data off of her phone. He obsessively checked the location of her vehicles and her cell phone.
Based on the testimony of the witnesses and the evidence admitted, the people have met their burden for purposes of preliminary examination that there is probable cause that Dee Warner died by homicide at the hands of the defendant, Dale Warner. The evidence presented also...
As Dale awaited trial, searches for Dee's body continued. On August 16, 2024, 2 more search warrants were issued for the farm on Munger Road and the adjacent property. 2 days later, authorities confirmed they had located the remains of Dee Warner. She was found inside an anhydrous ammonia tank used for the family's chemical fertilizer business. Police seized the tank from a barn located on property owned by Dale. On it was a handwritten tag with an aluminum wire to notate that the tank was out of service due to a bad dip tube. It was then x-rayed revealing remains inside. The tank had been spotted near to a trash pile next to a barn 2 days after Dee's disappearance. Witnesses reported seeing Dale mending and then painting it over this period of time. According to surveillance video and officers' observations, the tank was relocated after 2 days. On it, they found a non-manufactured weld, meaning it showed signs of being manually welded shut.
These are the type of tanks they are. And as you'll notice, there's a seam right here, okay? And that appears to be where the seam was cut. And then this cap taken off. And then her body put in that way.
There was no liquid found inside the tank with Dee. The medical examiner's office determined she died from strangulation. Greg Hardy and son Parker witnessed Dale working on a tank over a few days after Dee went missing. This was odd for a few reasons, they said. The first, because it was not logical to spend time repairing rusted-out tanks. Commonly, they would simply be replaced. Second, they did not believe that Dale had the welding skills required to properly repair it.
My father and I were the ones that originally saw him about 2 days after, working on that very tank. And it was always a weird thought to me on why he was doing that. We questioned him. We've been talking as a family that she wasn't in that tank when I was there. She was in that tank when my dad was there the next day. And he remembers the look on his face. I mean, he had not slept all night. There's no doubt he had been up all night working, which it takes a lot of work to remove that cap, place her in there, get her from wherever he had her at, place her in there, weld the tank back up, and begin painting it. He wanted to get it painted far enough where you couldn't see the new welds. After you got past that, he was home free because people would just think, oh, he's just working on a tank. It's taking him a long time. He didn't want anybody to see that he'd been welding on it. There would never be a reason to weld on a tank. You get rid of it if there was something wrong. But it was all these years, it's always been in the back of our head, what if my mom actually always said, could he cut that tank open and put her in it and weld it back up? And I'm like, that's a lot of work. He's not that good of a welder.
Dale Warner may not have been a great welder. His son Jiren, however, was rumored to be. In March 2024, Jiren Warner, now 26 years old and Lena's temporary guardian, was charged with tampering with evidence and being an accessory to murder after the fact.
Is Lena here with you?
No.
Okay. We got a warrant for your arrest, buddy. Put your hands behind your back.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Are you serious right now? Dad.
I'll explain everything to you. Just give us a minute, okay?
There were no publicly released statements detailing the evidence against Jiren. There was only speculation that Dale must have had assistance in hiding Dee's body and disposing of her personal belongings.
Jiren, your warrant is for accessory after the fact of a homicide and for tampering with evidence. What's that, buddy?
I'm not sure what that means, I guess.
So essentially, you took actions after the homicide that you now know and should have known, likely, that it was after a crime occurred. I've been truthful with you. Your dad has put you in really shitty spots throughout this, and unfortunately, you continue to let him to do that. And it's not a position I envy you for, that's for sure. But those are the cards you were dealt. But again, short of begging you, I've done everything I could for you to talk to me and explain this part of the story. And unfortunately, you didn't want to do that.
In May 2025, the prosecutor's office, having never detailed how exactly they believed Jiren had been involved, dropped the charges against him. They stated only that a witness could not be located, but should that individual be found, they could refile the charges. Before the discovery of Dee's remains, Dale Warner's trial for first-degree murder had been scheduled to commence in September 2025. However, court records now show that it has been pushed to a start date of January 27, 2026. Dee Warner's family have filed a wrongful death lawsuit in the amount of $100 million against Dale. It's unclear how much her estate is actually worth, certainly not that amount. Nor is it clear how much Dale has already siphoned off of it. Since her body has been found, the family has been offered some closure. They look forward to seeing Dale Warner receive the sentence that he deserves, and they want Dee to know that she is still very much loved.
You know, this is totally premeditated, in my opinion. To kill your wife, entomb her in a steel tube, to attempt to hide her forever from not only the public and her other, but maybe from some of his family members who may or may not have knowledge. That's insane. I mean, that's a huge, very, very evil person to do that. I mean, you obviously have no remorse if you can do that. So I think it'll be a pretty strong trial, and I can't wait. We'd certainly like to tell her we love her very much. I think that covers it when we say we love her very much. Thanks.
And that was the tragic case of Dee Ann Warner. Thank you for joining me, and a special thanks this week to Nurse Severa and Heidi Betrock for joining our Members Lounge. I'm Kevin, this is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one.
Tell me who the scream saves, I can hear the cries repeat. Gotta take my time, cause these crimes get deep, but these stories can't hide, let me find my seat. Kevin, go ahead and settle in. Gotta be selective, doing all the research, keeping it objective, always been effective. Can say he got a knack, pick of the litter, you see how Newton got his back. Yeah, the content that you need, this could be a new sign. We talking the comments, they jot